Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack. I'm your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Now I know you're thinking that it's too early, it's too early for another episode and we're still continuing with the wolves, right? Well, yes we are, but today I wanted to make this day a very special exception because on this day, April 3rd, 2024, we are gathered here to give praise, honor, and high recognition for one of the world's best-known primatologists, Jane Goodall herself. Today, Jane Goodall celebrates her 90th birthday, as well as more than 60 years of her dedication in the study of wild chimpanzees, as well as a world-leading example of humanitarian rights and how we need to treat our planet as well as each other with great respect. So today I'd like to share with you a little brief backstory, her history of how she came to be one of the world's leading figures of just how humans should act altogether. So here we are back in Africa where we begin tracing her life with her beginnings. Ever since she was small, she had always had a love of both animals and Africa. Animals, especially when her father, as an alternative to a stuffed teddy bear, she actually received a stuffed toy chimpanzee that was named Jubilee, where at first many people thought that it was going to scare her, but no. She loved this baby. She loved this stuffed chimpanzee. Later on, as she got older and into her mid-20s, her dream of going to Africa would come true as she would go on to work at Africa in Kenya's nearby local natural history museum under the watchful eye of famed paleoanthropologist Dr. Louis Seymour Bazit-Leakey. Now, it would be ultimately him. It would be him who would eventually send Jane Goodall into Africa, at least East Africa, to study wild chimpanzees, because at the time that she was offered this task, the world had already known chimpanzees in zoos and circuses and such, but we never really knew how they lived their lives out in the wild. And it was also because of her lack of formal training of how, back in the day, studies of animals and such were done back in their day with certain traditions. Because she lacked that training, he felt that she would be the perfect candidate for the task. And truthfully, he couldn't have chosen a better candidate. Now, of course, doing this seemed to be easier said than done, because when Jane Goodall first started, she had much difficulty even finding wild chimpanzees, as naturally primates are really shy animals. They really don't want to be caught on camera, or they are rather about not seeking us or not letting us seek them out. They would prefer us to not see them and that they shouldn't be going to look for us. But that would change when an alpha male who she would later name David Graybeard would allow her to watch him as well as his family interact with their natural environment. Because as the troop saw that the alpha male was accepting this stranger into their home because she posed no threat, the family group also allowed her to see them up close. Now, here's a little something special. At Disney's Animal Kingdom, around the Tree of Life, there's actually a carving of David Graybeard as a tribute to us to humanity making a first official contact of wild chimpanzees in which they were not being posed as a threat to them. So Jane Goodall really did make so many different discoveries with chimpanzees. She learned about how chimpanzees stick together in groups for protection as well as for community, and that they have very complex communications through grunts or even facial expressions, and that also, unlike how we perceive them as gentle vegetarians, chimpanzees will actually hunt other animals and will eat meat. Some have even later on we discovered that some chimpanzees will choose mates by those who provide meat. So the old bringing home the bacon doesn't seem to be too far along for chimps. But there was another major breakthrough discovery for Jane Goodall that would really ultimately change the way we see animals forever. She was the very first to observe chimpanzees using tools. This was the very first non-human animal to be using tools to get food or to do something to make their lives so much easier. This was one of the biggest breakthroughs for the discovery of our time. Of course, though, this really wasn't met with open arms immediately. So, unfortunately, some academic officials at Cambridge actually gave harsh criticism about Jane's methods. One of them was naming the animals that she was studying, as well as suggesting the idea that these creatures would show emotion, right? They think these are just another bunch of dumb animals. They don't know. They don't have any feelings. They don't have any of that stuff. To her, though, preposterous. So she would ultimately change the status quo of how we view the animals and the animal kingdom into today, as well as would be my biggest inspiration and influence of how we should treat our natural world. So later on, as we know, that 1977, the Jane Goodall Institute was established as an effort to help protect wild chimpanzees and their habitats, and today is still seen as a leader in improving the treatment and understanding of primates through public education and legal representations. Since then, she's been a leader in many different projects of not just conservation, but showing humanity a different way of looking at our world and everything in it. My opinion, one of her greatest examples was for a promo during 20th Century Fox's film War for the Planet of the Apes in 2017. I would like to read it for you. She states in this little trailer, "No one anointed us as ruler of this kingdom. It's not ours to own. We are simply one of the animal species of our planet, not separate, not superior. We hold in our hands a responsibility to preserve harmony in the natural world, to demonstrate compassion towards all who call this home. Only if we understand can we care. Only if we care can all be saved." And thanks to that, and it was thanks to that, during that year when War for the Planet of the Apes, before it was released, 20th Century Fox and the Jane Goodall Institute partnered with each other to create a special sanctuary for rehabilitated chimpanzees on Xinzhou Island, where it would be ultimately called Caesar's Home in recognition of the franchise's primate hero, Caesar. She really, as I said, she has been such a great influence on not just chimpanzee conservation, but really how we need to change our way of living on this planet. What we are doing now, we can't do that anymore. We have to change for the better, because without nature, we can't exist. It just can't be. She really has shown so much for all of us. She's shown me a better way of how we can always treat animals, and that we need to look at them not as separate, but as equals. Always see animals in nature as an equal, not a subordinate. You're equals. By doing that, then I think humanity can truly become creatures that are worldly wise. So there's so much more that I could go on, but I'm afraid that's all. That's how I'll end today's episode, by just saying to Jane Goodall once more, happy birthday. You really have done such a great service, and I just hope you have a fantastic day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for today's special episode. Thank you for taking time to join me today. Be sure to join me this coming Saturday for part 2 of the Wolf and Yellowstone National Park. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.